2 months ago, a perennial powerhouse was headed at breakneck pace towards the college football playoff, led by an electrifying Heisman hopeful.
Kyler Murray, touchdown!
Then, heartbreak at the hands of a detested rival.
The Longhorns with a program-defining victory.
But since that fateful afternoon at the Cotton Bowl, the Oklahoma Sooners have stormed back into the limelight with 6 consecutive victories. And now, 8 weeks later, they'll meet their most hated adversaries once again, this time at Dallas's billion-dollar premier venue, with the stakes higher than ever before. Will Oklahoma avenge its only loss and solidify its status as a national title contender? Or will Texas prove that its upset victory was no fluke? It's the 5th-ranked Sooners and the 14th-ranked Longhorns in a grudge match for all the marbles. This is the Big 12 Championship from AT&T Stadium, and this is GamedayU.
Welcome to GamedayU from AT&T Stadium, Arlington, Texas. Big 12 Championship game is in an hour for you. This is Friday. We're filming early.
Yeah.
It was going to be hard. You can cut us some slack. Ball game's tomorrow.
Yep.
Guys, we're here. AT&T Stadium. We hope to do this.
Big Guy Television is.
It's a special edition, baby.
Yeah.
We're back.
We hyped it up. We hyped up that we might be able to do it. We weren't really sure. We're doing it. Let's have it.
When
Let's go.
WVU gave us a scare, but we'll get into that a little bit. But man, I can't believe we're here.
Can I get this TV in my room? It'd be nice to have
Will
that
it
big
fit?
of a screen. You know, it
I'll
probably
take,
wouldn't,
I'll take
but
one
I'll
of the
get a bigger
smaller
room
ones.
to
I don't
fit
care.
in it.
That's fine with me. I don't have to have the massive.
I like,
one.
yeah, I
don't
like how the
wanna
ones on the
see shit.
sides are small in
Yeah,
comparison.
but they're still big. They're still like
Still
really,
huge.
really big.
They're getting the field ready for tomorrow right now behind us. What's the likelihood you think I can ride one of the turf sweepers by the end of the day?
I'm gonna say it's
They
not
might,
good.
they might let you go for it. It's pretty crazy that we're even in here. So, I
Yeah.
mean, who knows what we can do, honestly.
Let's
Wouldn't
try.
hurt to try. Yeah, we'll see what happens.
It'd be so fun.
This stadium, this atmosphere is going to be crazy tomorrow.
Yeah, man.
But before we get into that, the stadium atmosphere last Friday was crazy too. Oklahoma, West Virginia. What a ball game, an absolute classic, a shootout, 1 billion points were scored. Let's look at the stats here. West Virginia over 700 total yards of offense. Oklahoma came right back with 688 of their own. Will Greer, he had 539 passing yards. That's a lot. 165 on the ground for West Virginia. Much more evenly balanced for Oklahoma, 364 to 304. And of course the final score, 59 to 56 in favor of the Sooners. Guys, there was a lot to talk about from that OU West Virginia game. An absolute thriller in Morgantown. Where do you want to start?
I just thought it was hilarious. You know, Sam and I are down there in the end zone, and Will Greer
It was
gets the ball to
cold. It was
start
like
the
really,
game.
really cold.
And of course, they're driving down the field, and you're starting to think, okay, is it going to be like that? And I still remember just so vividly.
I watched this video the other day.
Will Greer's sitting in the pocket. You can tell Oklahoma's going to bring the blitz, and all he does is he looks at David Sills and he just goes,
He does the up.
snaps the ball and bombs it for a touchdown, and you just think immediately, here we go.
Here's some
Here we
points.
go.
Yeah,
And
there's gonna be
so
points.
it begins, ladies and gentlemen, and boy did it. What an unbelievable game, back and forth all day. Daniel Holgerson was really trying to pull out all the stops. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for him, but very fortunately for the Sooners, they somehow squeaked out of that atmosphere, and it was wild.
Yeah, you know, at the beginning of the year I said I think the game in Morgantown will be the toughest game on the Sooners schedule this year. Now, obviously, they did lose to Texas in that first match between the two teams, so, you know, I wasn't exactly right on that, as Josh will point out. He was right. But, I mean, it was a tough win. They barely squeaked it out. Like you said, Will Greer, 539 yards. The safeties specifically really seemed to struggle against him. I mean, you can't really blame him. He's fantastic. Jennings, Sills, both fantastic wide receivers. Both, you know, had phenomenal games as well, but I think the Sooners were lucky to squeak out with a win. And hey, they got some help from their defense, 2 defensive touchdowns.
Yeah,
something
that's
we probably didn't expect to see.
That's
Yeah,
what I was
weird.
going to talk about. The fact that at the end of the day, regardless, and it's kind of been that way all season, despite how bad the defenses play, they still find a way to make an impact on the final result. 2 defensive touchdowns that Caleb Kelly scoop and score. And Curtis Bolton with his another touchdown, his third of the year, defense and special teams. Those three linebackers, him, Bolton, and Murray, combined for 34 tackles. Caleb Kelly had a massive day, and at the end of the day, so the quarterbacks did make some plays here and there, got a couple stops. And at the end of the day, that's all you need because you've got Kyler Murray and that electric offense who just can't seem to. No one can stop him. It seems like
it's the theory that I've been working on. That maybe it doesn't matter if you have a bad defense, if your offense is going to be that good. Does it matter? Do you actually have to have a good defense? Have we been lied to for our entire lives?
I don't know, but I feel like they don't have a defense, but they have the alternate of a defense right now because they have found the running game, Josh.
Yeah.
This is unbelievable what they've been able to do now with Kennedy Brooks.
Kenny Brooks is killing it.
And I got to tell you, man, obviously Brooks is getting all the headlines, but to me, that game in Morgantown solidified Oklahoma's offensive line as the best unit in all of football.
They were throwing pancakes all over the place.
They were unbelievable in that football game. In the run game, in pass protection, I thought that was the best game all season for them, and they have been dominant since they played Texas in the Cotton Bowl.
Yeah.
This time around, I think that's something to look forward to because Oklahoma's offensive line is clicking on all cylinders. Creed Humphrey has come into his own. I just love the way Oklahoma's offensive line is playing right now. And of course, we can talk all day about Kennedy Brooks and what he's brought to the table, Josh. It's just unbelievable.
And we got to talk about how nice it is to have Marquise Brown back at 100%.
He's at 100%.
His first game back at 100%, a slight 240 yards, 2 touchdowns, no big deal.
And I got to tell
you, another
man,
week.
Another day at the office for him.
An interesting thing here. There were only 2 teams in all of college football that had not allowed to play.
I've heard this
over
one so
50
many times.
yards.
It was like the first drive. Yeah, it was like right at the
Mississippi
beginning.
State and West Virginia. Well, guess what? Marquise Brown said, "See you later, stat," and went deep.
Like
for that
3
long
times.
touchdown.
Kenny
Like
Brooks
3
had a
times.
long one.
Kenny Brooks had a big play.
Yeah, West Virginia just got torched defensively, and man, it was just another example of Big 12 football.
You mentioned Kennedy Brooks. Lincoln Riley raved about him. He said, he's not really the fastest guy or even the strongest, but he sees the field like few other players can do. And that really stood out to me. And if you watch him, you can tell, he just finds those holes so well. He can really see the whole play, see what the defense is doing, and just find those holes. And like you said, Collin, having a great offensive line definitely doesn't hurt.
Quick question for everybody here. I like this question. Who do you think Kennedy Brooks is most like in terms of running style? To me, it's Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah.
I really do think
Reminds
his
me.
patience
I don't
is
know.
very similar to Bell.
I haven't really thought about that. I've always thought Joe Mixon was a little bit more of a Le'Veon Bell running back. You saw that a lot in his last
Mixon
year
was
at
great
OU.
pass catching wise.
He was a
but
great pass catcher.
Just Bell's patience. I see that so much in Brooks, the way he
In-
approaches the line of scrimmage.
In terms
Yeah.
of vision, like Madeline said, there's not a lot of guys like him who can be patient. Joe Mixon was like that at OU. To be patient, wait and find that hole, and then have the acceleration to burst through. He's such a natural runner. Lincoln Riley says that all the
Yeah.
time. He looks like he's jogging. He just looks like he's just on a jog with
Yeah.
his dog, and he just goes off for 75 yards like it's nothing.
That's why the person that sticks to me is Eric Dickerson, because Eric Dickerson was that guy very much like that, where he's like, is he even running hard? Is he even like trying?
And yeah, I think somebody said that. Who was it that said that he looks like Eric Dickerson, like when he runs?
Yeah, he just glides along. It's like we shoot the games and he hits the hole, and I'm like, oh, he's going. Like he's at full speed right now, and he's blowing by people, and it looks like he's not even moving.
It's a fun game to play.
It's very, very unusual, and he's crushing. His stats are unbelievable. He was going to be a 1,000-yard rusher, and he was not even on the radar.
Yeah,
to see
leading
him.
the country in yards per carry now at 9.9. He could potentially set an FBS record.
Yeah, 12 touchdowns too. That's not a little. So
Impressive.
back over to the defense, probably the weirdest game of the year for them because
I don't know what to make of it.
they played better, I think most people think.
Yeah.
They got West Virginia a lot of 3rd and longs that they gave up. They had 2 defensive touchdowns, Bolton and Caleb Kelly, but the other day still gave up 56 points. So how are you feeling about the defense right now? Where are we at on the defense? Probably the hardest to judge game of the year.
See, they've adapted this bend but don't break mentality. And obviously, you'll get into this a little bit more, Josh, but they're not playing any better.
No.
By any stretch of the word. But they're just finding a way to make plays that win the game.
Yeah.
And I think, obviously, we talk about the touchdowns a whole lot. To me, one of the most monumental moments of that football game was when West Virginia was driving down the field and about 4th down and 6, Holgorsen decides to go for it. And they called a fade to the goal line.
Yeah.
And Robert Barnes is right there in coverage. Turnover on downs. That stopped West Virginia's momentum. It gave the ball back to Kyler Murray with a chance to go up on West Virginia. I thought that moment changed the game, and it's just another example of well, you look at the stat line and it's terrible, but they just find a way to win.
Yeah.
I don't know
I
how.
thought that call was pretty questionable on Holgerson's part there. I didn't necessarily agree.
I mean, I guess
Yeah,
in that
agree
kind of
with
game where it's just, there's going to be just a million
gotta go
points,
for
To me,
I guess.
You gotta be
you take
aggressive,
the
I guess.
points, but
Yeah, I understand. It's tough because also it's like, I'm sure he's very confident in Will Greer's ability to get them in the end zone in that play.
I mean, you saw the camera shot. He just goes, "Let's go for it."
Yeah.
I don't blame him.
I mean,
You
generally
wanna score.
speaking, I would like to see Oklahoma go for it more. I mean, I feel like this is the best offense I've
It's-
ever seen.
yeah.
Go for it. Like, nobody's going to stop you regularly.
It's funny when you look at that defense because for so many plays, they're so bad. But you look at the end of the day, you're looking at maybe 3 plays where they played well and that changed the outcome of the game. You talk about that fourth
I mean, do
down,
they
the
win
2
without those 2
touchdowns.
defensive touchdowns?
No.
No, absolutely not.
No, they don't. I mean, it's more
So-
it's more possessions for West Virginia, but at the same time, the way that game was going, I don't think they would have stopped them. But you look back at that game, the stops that they had. Oklahoma State, the 2-point conversion at the end of the game, they stopped that.
Yeah.
Texas Tech, they returned a 2-point conversion for 2 points on the 100 yards. Robert Barnes, we mentioned him, and then another 2-point stop at the end. They just find a way somehow to pull it out, and that's something you can't really teach. That's just grit.
in terms of giving up points per game, they're sitting right at 100th right now, which, out of
It's not ideal.
130, that's not the best. That's not really what anyone would think would be like a championship contender type of team. But hey, where's their offense? Right at number 1.
Yeah.
So when you have the number 1 offense, can you afford to have, like you said, Josh, the 100th best defense? I mean, will that
I
win you a
guess.
championship?
I mean, so far, yeah.
We might see.
Yeah, so far, so good. I mean,
Yeah.
so I mean, you touched on earlier, the defense has not been better. We're at 6 games each from after Mike Stoops was let go. We have the numbers here to show you. They're not better. It's arguably worse. Granted, they
In
played
almost
better
every
teams.
statistical category.
They played better teams. They played West Virginia, Texas Tech, Oklahoma State. But they're not. It doesn't actually look like it's improved. Not that we all expect it to just be vastly better, but how we feel. You always weren't a big fan of the move. How do we feel about the move now, this late? It's been 6 games each. What do we think?
I mean, at the end of the day, literally, they're the worst defense in the Big 12. Period.
That's not a conference going to be the worst defense in.
And that should be unacceptable at this stage for Oklahoma. Now, again, it's just this difficult balance because, well, they're the literal worst, and they're one of the worst in the entire nation. And you're a blue blood program that should not be in that situation. But at the same time,
You're
only
number 5
lost
in the country.
1 game.
You're number 5 in the country.
And you keep winning. And you're about to potentially make the playoffs if you avenge your loss that the defense could not get the job done that time around. I don't know. I mean, I think the question that we have to ask ourselves is, would they be in the same situation or even in a better situation with Mike Stoops still on the job? I'm tempted to say yes, but it's such a hard question to answer.
Yeah.
I mean, I think regardless of that, obviously Ruffin McNeil, he's not the defensive coordinator. He's just the interim. They'll probably make an
Right.
outside hire in the offseason, bring somebody else in. So I think it was time for Mike Stoops to go. It was time for them to part ways. But like you said, Collin, I don't know if they would be in this position right now if they hadn't have, maybe they'd waited until the offseason to maybe let Mike Stoops go. I feel like there's no way we could possibly know that. There's no way we could, anticipate which way that would go.
Yeah.
Just a question
I
of,
can't. I feel like it wouldn't be any worse. I don't know. Where are you at?
I feel like it's hard to judge because you don't know how a Mike Stoops coach defense would have performed in these games against Texas Tech, against West Virginia. You remember these players are learning an entirely new system. They're learning Ruffin McNeil's system. They're under Ruffin McNeil. They seem to like Ruffin McNeil a lot more, from what it seems like. They're playing for him. They're playing together, which is something you see. They're not going at each other. There's a lot of energy. But at the same time, you look out in the field and they're giving up 56 points, or they're giving up 51 points, or they're giving up 46 points. You just don't. You gotta find a way to just get some quality stops. Like, you can't allow touchdowns on every single drive. They have one of the worst red zone defenses in the country, and it just doesn't seem like it's going to get any better.
Yeah, it's one of those weird things. You kind of mentioned it. It's like it seems like, at least especially in this past game, the secondary played a little better. The tackling is a little better, but at the end of the day, they're still giving 56 points and basically letting them score every drive.
Anytime an opponent's inside the 20-yard line, you might as well guarantee a touchdown at this point.
Essentially.
And it's just to play devil's advocate. We talk about the whole Mike Stoops thing and really the psyche of the players, but at the same time, Josh, you and I talk about it a lot. This Oklahoma team dominated West Virginia in the past. Dominated them.
Yep.
And I think a lot of that had to do, even though recognition was not given, to Mike Stoops, because somehow he was able to crack the code.
The last time they went to Morgantown, defense played great.
Exactly. And so if Stoops knew how to handle that offense, they did not know at all. But at the end of the day, it's just so strange because then Lincoln gets up to the stand and He says it was the best game the corners had played all
that
year.
was weird. Yeah, it's like,
All year? Against that receiving core that just went for that much yardage? And those,
I
I don't
for
know.
500 million yards.
That's where part of the problem lies. That's where a decent amount of the problem lies. It's the secondary. They're one of the worst teams in the country. I believe they're 126 out of 129 in pass yards allowed per game. And you look at it, it's funny because, in my opinion, obviously they have one of the worst defenses, if not the worst defense in the Big 12. I think they've got one of the better linebacker cores in the Big 12. And rush defense has been their strength up until 2 weeks ago. They were 43rd. And they gave up over 300 yards to Kansas and over 160 yards here to West Virginia. We thought that was their strength, and they're gonna have to be a lot better on that side if they want to keep this one close today.
I think their mentality is a lot different and a lot better, but does that really matter if it's not translating onto the field? I don't really think it does.
I think my final point would be, I think they're just too complacent and happy with being the defense that just allows the offense to make continuous plays for them. That has to change in this game, all right?
For sure. One thing for sure, it was a heck of a ball game in Morgantown. That was a lot of fun. Hopefully we get that good of a game here in AT&T Stadium. So we're going to hop out for now. We'll be right back. We'll get more into the ball game that's going to happen on this field behind us and a little bit of the Heisman race between Kyler Murray and Tua Tagovailoa. We'll be back in just a minute. Back inside AT&T Stadium, Josh Galley, Collin, Kennedy, Madeline Harper, Sam Brown. Friday before the big game, painting the field right now. You can probably hear the blowers down there, getting it all ready to go.
Still want
It's got to be pretty.
There was a Cowboys game last night. I mean,
Yeah.
Quick turnaround, so really good job by the staff here.
And the Cowboys got the dub, baby.
Yeah.
Somehow. I don't know.
Good
I was
staff
watching
here.
that. I don't know how that happened, but they did it. They did
Good
it.
staff here. They're treating us right. We're keeping updated on the score. Cowboys Saints in the car. Another game we're keeping updated in the car last weekend. Ohio State, Michigan. We had to listen to that one on the radio. We did it old school. We didn't get to watch the game.
I loved it.
It was
it
different.
was fun to listen to in the car.
This is the whole game on the radio,
Just
coming
doing
back
that.
from Morgantown because we drove there because we're committed.
Yeah.
So that game,
I would have
obviously,
walked there. I would have walked there. I don't
we drove
care.
right through
Okay,
Columbus. We
Sam.
could have. So you threw me off here. So that game was obviously very significant for OU fans for a lot of reasons. Let's just talk about the game real quick. What it means for Oklahoma in the CFP race. I think we all are kind of unanimous. OU needed Ohio State to lose that game. What are we looking at going forward in the OU Ohio State debate here?
I think the rankings on Tuesday kind of told you everything you need to know
You would think.
about where
Yeah.
they're at right now. Because if you look at it, Texas is 14, Northwestern is 21. Those are the two teams that Oklahoma and Ohio State are playing in their conference championships. And so I think regardless, it's like Madeline said earlier, win and you're in. That should be what the committee is thinking right
Yeah.
now, because otherwise they wouldn't have put Oklahoma in front of Ohio State. Unless Oklahoma really squeaks one out and Ohio State blows by Northwestern, as long as Bama beats Georgia, I think that Oklahoma's in.
Yeah, going back to that game, obviously if Michigan wins, they're probably in the playoff. I mean, yeah, they have to win the conference, but they're probably in. And, you know, that wasn't even a close game. I mean, we were listening to it. I don't remember what the final score was, but Ohio State won that.
62-39.
Yeah, 62
Yeah.
points on the number one defense in the nation. I
Yeah,
mean,
they pretty much
huge
scored every
performance
time
from
they got
them.
the ball.
But,
Yeah.
but the fact that, you know, they had
Thought I
that
was watching
huge
Oklahoma for a second
performance, they had that huge performance, and the committee still, you know, put OU ahead of them, makes me think that even if OU squeaks out a 1-point win tomorrow against Texas and Ohio State beats Northwestern by like 65 points, I feel like OU is still in there just because of what we've seen so far. I mean, it would be tough for them maybe, be like, okay, well, you know, you barely won again, another really close win, another really big win for Ohio State. But I still think if I had to bet, I'd say OU would still be in that scenario.
I just find it hilarious that when that game started between Ohio State and Michigan, Sooner fans went into it thinking, man, we need Ohio State to
Yeah.
win, right?
Yeah.
Oklahoma fans wanted them to win so bad. And then next thing you know, as Ohio State continues to score and continues to score.
kinda like, okay, chill.
Oklahoma
Yeah.
fans are like,
We're like,
whoa,
all right,
whoa, stop. Well, they didn't
Get a
stop,
couple
and now
touchdowns, Michigan. Come
and
on.
now they're in a position to where I do think that style points have to be considered at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I don't think a lot of people are really high on Texas, even though Oklahoma's extremely high on them. And I don't blame them. I mean, Texas has been largely irrelevant for nearly a decade. And at the end of the day, if Ohio State's able to put on a show just like they did against Michigan, and Oklahoma has a similar performance to what they had against Texas, even if they squeak out a win, you have to be thinking, well, if you're a Sooner fan, you might be sweating come Sunday.
Yeah.
Because it's just something that the committee will consider. And I don't know. I do think that Ohio State's a good football team. I haven't been necessarily high on Michigan for a while. I think they're completely overrated, and I think the defense number is just because they played a bunch of cupcakes. But at the end of the
Yeah.
day, Ohio State benefited from beating their rival on that stage in that fashion, and it's a tough spot for Oklahoma.
If you're Oklahoma, and I'll talk about it later on in the show, you just can't let your foot off the gas, no matter what. You can't play conservative. You got to win big if you're going to win.
Yeah. All logic to me kind of says like Oklahoma should get in over Ohio State if they both win this weekend.
But
and
we've
Georgia
seen
loses.
crazier things.
But we've seen Ohio State do this before. They've been in twice,
TCU has something
controversially. The first time, obviously, the first year of the playoff, TCU was ranked number 3. They thought, we're winning, we're in, we're fine. No, Ohio State crushed Wisconsin. They won the Big Ten, and the committee decided they changed their mind in the last weekend. So we've seen it before. Also, on paper, Ohio State really aren't that different. You know, OU has a better loss. Ohio State has a better win. OU has the best player in Kyler Murray, but then they have a lot of close calls to teams they shouldn't. Like, is OU that decisively ahead of Ohio State in your guys' mind? I think they should be in, but it's pretty close.
I think Oklahoma is better than Ohio State. And the reason I say that is, yes, Oklahoma's defense is bad.
They're also the same on that front. They also both just score a ton and give up a lot.
Yeah,
They're
Ohio
basically the
State's defense isn't that good either. They're not anything special. They've given up a lot of big plays. Just look at Maryland a couple weeks ago. It took them to overtime to try and win that game. They gave at one point one running back at 250 yards at halftime. I mean, two big plays. They give up a lot of big plays, and I think that would play really well into a team like Oklahoma's case, who can score points in bunches.
I think by far the biggest difference is just like you said, Josh, that one loss that each of these teams have.
Very
29-point loss to Purdue. That is horrible. That is
Purdue
so
might not make a bowl.
bad.
I think they're
so
5
much
6.
worse than a 3-point loss to a Texas team they're about to play again in the Big 12 championship game. So just the fact that they lost by that many points to a team that's as bad as Purdue. That's separation right there. That's what the committee's looking at.
In my eyes, Ohio State is Oklahoma, just without as good of a quarterback.
Basically.
I think that's it.
Yeah, they're very similar.
I think
close
that's
calls teams they shouldn't. Yeah, it's like Nebraska kind of play close with, or Ohio State kind of play close to Nebraska. Well, you kind of play close to Kansas. You know, it goes back and forth.
Kind of play close to Oklahoma State.
Yeah, it's like, well, Ohio State beat Michigan. It's like, well, you went to Morgantown. You know, it's like they have those counterpoints to everything.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, when you go through it, strength of record typically favors Oklahoma. Strength of schedule typically favors Oklahoma. I mean, things go back and forth. But at the end of it all, you just have to look at the scenario here. Ohio State beats a Northwestern team that's, I mean, they're okay. I like Fitzgerald a lot. But at the same time, if Oklahoma has the opportunity to avenge their loss, and they do so, I don't know how you keep them in.
Yeah, especially considering it's the team they lost to.
Exactly.
So obviously there's a lot of big games today. Championship Saturday.
Yeah.
Games of interest, Ohio State Northwestern tonight. We have a graphic for you to show all the ball games for you. Nice and pretty. Spencer Forsyth, shout him out. We had a lot of great graphics.
Shout out to Spencer.
Washington, Utah is tonight for us. Last night for you guys watching the show. Also Clemson, Pittsburgh tonight. I think we all know that one's probably going to go. And then, of course, the Big Daddy, Bama, Georgia, 1 versus 4. Let's pick a couple of these games. The ones of most interest to Oklahoma. I think we all assume Clemson's going to beat Pittsburgh, so let's not even waste our time with that.
No.
Ohio State, Northwestern. Does anybody want to get crazy and say Northwestern pulls it off tonight? We'll start with you, Sam. Ohio State, Northwestern. Give us a pick.
No, I'm good. I'm going to go with Ohio State in this one. I think Northwestern,
Close
like you said,
or no?
I think it'll be close for a little bit. I think Northwestern can hang for a half or so, but I think Ohio State's got too much to prove. I like Pat Fitzgerald like Collin does. I like Clayton Thorson at quarterback. He's not bad.
Yeah.
But Ohio State's just got too many weapons. I think it'll be over in the second half.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Northwestern
Will lose.
loses the game. I'm with Sam.
get crazy.
Ohio State has too much firepower on offense. I think Northwestern will hang around a little bit. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but yeah, Ohio State's going to get it done.
I'm going to pick kind of the opposite of what Madeline said. I think Ohio State wins the game.
Wow.
I think the Buckeyes get the job done.
Brilliant.
I will say this, like I said, and Sam boosted it, I think Fitzgerald's going to throw the kitchen sink at the Buckeyes. And this could be a little bit of a nail-biter because, again, Ohio State's defense, not that good, and they've let people hang around. If Northwestern's able to establish the run game, Sam mentioned it, McFarland for Maryland went for 250 plus.
Yeah.
If Ohio State allows that to be a strength for Northwestern, could be pretty interesting,
Yeah.
but I'll pick the Buckeyes.
Northwestern's kind of weird. They've kind of found their way into everybody's schedule. They played Notre Dame. They played Michigan. They played Michigan close. I think they had the lead in the second half of that
did,
game.
yeah.
Notre Dame kind of pulled away late. I think Ohio State's going to win this game. I think it might be close-ish. I think Ohio State makes it
I think Northwestern can hang. They can
close-ish.
certainly play it off a
Northwestern's
little bit.
decent, but I think this is a game where Dwayne Haskins goes off and he gets himself invited to New York at the end of the season. Obviously, it's Kyler or Tua's to win or lose.
Yeah.
If you want to put that.
For
But I
the
think
third spot.
Haskins gets himself to New York.
Not to mention Ohio State, they want to prove that, hey, we're a really good team.
Yeah, plus
we
they're
can
gonna
beat
try.
Northwestern
Yeah.
by 1,000,000 points if we want a chance to get into the playoff.
Yeah.
Both Oklahoma and Texas are in this. Oklahoma and Ohio State are in the same spot where they're going to try and put as many points on the board, dominate as much as they can. They could care less if there's 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. They're going to try and score again.
For sure. So that game's obviously of interest. Game that might even be more concerning for OU fans is the SEC championship game. Bama, Georgia, 1-4, national title game rematch in the same stadium out there in Atlanta. Okay, so the committee probably wants Bama to go ahead and just win this, so they don't have to worry about it. Because if Georgia wins, chaos with what you do with that 4 spots. Let's pick the game first. Bama, Georgia. Same thing I asked earlier. Does anybody want to get crazy and say Georgia? It's where that number 4 team can be this big of an underdog.
Nah, I'm
home,
good.
basically. They're in Atlanta.
I'm good. I'm gonna go with Bama in this one. I feel like we've seen it all season. Alabama just finds a way to kick it up a notch. Even last week against Auburn, Auburn kind of held it close at Alabama, only down by 3 at halftime. And then Alabama just started playing football, and they kicked it up a notch. Tua was phenomenal, I think, with that game. If he plays well against Georgia, we're going to talk about this a little later, but this whole Heisman race, he's been unbelievable. They've got so many weapons, too, on offense, and their defense is just unbelievable. I think it's close. I think it's close, but I think Bama takes it.
What's the spread on this game? Is it like 13
I'm not sure. I think it's
or
like
something?
13.
Just
Yeah. I wanna say
huge?
Too much for a matchup between number 1 and number 4.
Yeah, I can't believe number 4 is this big underdog. It's crazy.
Yeah, I'm going to pick Bama to win and cover the spread. I mean, like Sam said, we'll talk about it in a little bit, but Tua Tagovailoa, phenomenal player of the game of football.
Yeah.
He can throw the ball. I just think that Bama will dominate on both sides of the ball and get a big win.
That leaves it down to me maybe to pick Georgia, because I don't think you're going to pick them, but neither will I. So I'm going to go with the Alabama Crimson Tide. I will say this. You often talk about Tua, but I think Alabama has an unbelievable amount of talent surrounding him. I think Jerry Jeudy's one of the best after-the-catch wide receivers I've seen in a while. I think Jonah Williams at the left tackle or right tackle spot, wherever they want to put him, because he's played both, is an unbelievable player and a rising star. And, of course, that Alabama defense, well, it isn't necessarily as vaunted in past years, gets the job done. And Georgia's offensive line has been spotty throughout the season. I think Alabama is in a good spot.
Yeah, I'll make mine quick here. I'm going Bama, but I kind of said yesterday, I just got this weird, scary feeling about this game that Georgia's going to do something and they're going to mess it up for Oklahoma. I don't know. Everybody's kind of writing off the Bulldogs who are really good.
It could be similar to last year where Alabama pulls off.
It's just one of those games where I just have like a weird feeling about it, even though I'm taking Bama. But anyway, so before we get out of here, let's quickly go over the Heisman race.
Yeah.
I think most people agree it's a 2-horse race. Kyler Murray, Tua Tagovailoa. So look at the stats real quick here. Kyler Murray, more yards, more touchdowns, obviously. But Tua has only 2 interceptions. That's big. And, of course, the unblemished record. Hasn't lost a ball game this year. Where do you guys sit? It could really go either way. Who would you take for the Heisman today? Kyler,
to be honest, if I was picking right now for the Heisman, I would pick Kyler Murray, just because I think we talked about he means a little bit more to his team than Tua does.
Definitely does.
Without Kyler Murray, you put in an above average quarterback, this team's 8-4. They're not 10-1. They're not fighting for a Big 12 championship. Kyler Murray has completely changed this team around. We thought it was going to be a little bit of there was going to be a little bit of hiccups there with the transition from Baker to Kyler. It's been seamless. I would pick Kyler, but I have a feeling the committee's or the Heisman vote is going to stick with Tua.
I think I would lean towards Tua a little bit, just because, like you said, Josh, the unblemished record, and none of their losses have even been close losses. They've never come close to even there's never been any scare. That's why Tua hasn't really played in hardly any fourth quarter so far this season. Whereas, like you said, Kyler has more interceptions. He has some turnovers that were really costly to his team and led to, those really, really close wins over teams they should have beat by a lot of points.
Texas game. You could argue.
Exactly, yeah. Two turnovers in that game that might have cost the game. So I'm leaning toward Tua at this moment.
I think it's Kyler, and I'll tell you why. No player in the history of college football has averaged 300 passing yards per game and over 70 yards rushing,
his
let
running
alone
ability is a big
60
difference.
yards rushing per game. Right now, he's averaging over 300 and over 70. If that continues and he breaks that record and becomes one of the statistically best players in the history of college football, I don't really know and I don't really care what Tua could do. I feel like it would be an injustice to do something like that.
That's the thing. Personally, I would pick Kyler because you look at the numbers and you look at him on the field. He's phenomenal. He can do everything. Yeah. But I think you look at Alabama's storyline at the start of the season, Tua not playing a fourth quarter for 7 games and throwing 4 touchdowns in every one of them, not throwing an interception until his 8th game of the season, somewhere around then. I think it's going to be hard for them to just veer away from that and say, okay, Kyler Murray's in here, because Tua's been at the top from the start.
Yeah, it's a really tight race. It could go either way for a lot of the reasons you guys said. You know, Kyler's running ability, his importance to his team, but Tua hasn't lost a ball game. I kind of wonder if Tua's blowing everybody out almost works against him. He hasn't had to actually have like a moment or a drive or a game where they really needed him.
Saturday
I think most people agree
moment.
they'd probably be 12-0 whether it was Tua or Jalen Hurts, and I think that kind of works against Tua. Where, like you said, I don't think anybody thinks that he would be here without Kyler. So we'll hop out. We'll come back here to AT&T Stadium, talk more about the OU Texas ball game we're going to get here on this field. Stick with us. We'll be right back. Back inside AT&T Stadium, OU Texas round 2 ahead of the Big 12 Championship game tomorrow, which is about 30 minutes for you. Are you excited? I'm excited, and it's only like 24 hours out. Got a lot to talk about here, guys. Before we do, let's go ahead and hear what coaches and players had to say about the big rematch.
It's an exciting week for us, coming off a really pretty epic win up in Morgantown. So proud of the group for finding a way to get that one done. It was a challenging night, challenging football team.
I haven't thought about Texas. For me, I've been going week by week, day by day, trying to get to this point. Actually, I mean, it's just it's another game, obviously, Big 12 championship. But if we don't go out and execute, everybody's gonna be mad. So at the end of the day, we just gotta go out, have a good week of practice, and come Saturday, we'll be ready.
I mean, it'll be different for sure. I like the drive-in, and I like seeing everything split halfway. And I think it's really cool. You get some cool pictures out of it too. But I don't know. I mean, a football game's a football game. All that outside is awesome, but once you're on the field, you kind of lock in. And so, I mean, game time, it'll be game time. But I do love the Cotton Bowl. I do love how everything's put on, and that's everybody's favorite game every year. So
it's a championship game. It's a big game, and like whoever we was gonna play, we was gonna come out and just want to get the job done.
I think the bigger storyline to me is it's been a great year for the conference. This is a championship game between the best two teams in this conference, like it should be, and so it's going to be a lot of fun. Can't wait to get down there and play.
Nationally, just the view. I mean, the view. People don't like our defense. I mean, our stats haven't been great, and so as we continue to go forward and we finish out the season, finishing on a high note for sure is a good thing. And being able to have those turnovers, it helps us as a team, and it helps us in the game as well. And so I think it's good. But for a selection committee, I don't really know how they do it personally. So we try to stay away from that as much as we can.
What we can control right now is winning, and I think if we're able to find a way to do that, and I think we'll be right where we want to be. So the thing about the playoffs that comes down to me is teams have different formulas for winning games. Everybody wants to be great on offense and great on defense both. That's everybody's aspiration. It doesn't always happen that way. It's not easy to do.
Winning the Big 12 for the fourth time, nobody's ever done that before, so I feel like that's the mentality of this team. It's not more so about trying to prove anything to each other, getting sidetracked by that. We're trying to go out there and win a championship. That's what we do here at Oklahoma, is win championships.
Back inside AT&T Stadium, so that's what the coach and players had to say to the ball game. Now it's our turn. OU Texas, round 2, first time in over 100 years. 115, I think, to be exact, if my math is correct, Sam Brown. What are we looking at? There's a million things to look at with this ball game. Where do you want to begin?
Your math is right, and I'll start right there. The first time since 1903 these two teams are playing each other twice in one season. That was 4 years before Oklahoma even became a state. And you look at this matchup, it's got everything you can ask for. It's got the energy. These two teams just hate each other.
They don't like each other.
Passion.
Especially Kyler and Ellinger.
Going back to October, Kyler and Ellinger. There's going to be a lot of emotion. Texas has a chance today or tomorrow to say that they are officially back. I don't think Texas is officially back, but they've got a chance.
You win the
to
Big
make that
12,
statement.
yeah.
You win the Big 12, you make that statement. But Oklahoma's got a lot more to gain out of this than Ohio State or than Texas does.
Yeah, I mean, we mentioned it earlier, but it's kind of a win-in-your-end situation for Oklahoma, assuming that Alabama does beat Georgia, because, I mean, the committee showed on Tuesday that they value, like we said, OU a little bit more than Ohio State, just overall what they've done so far this season. But obviously that means you've got to beat Texas. You've got to handle the team that did beat you. You've got to avenge that loss. So obviously, biggest game by far this season for the Sooners.
I'm going to go with a sneaky storyline here. I'm kind of looking forward to this one. Obviously, we know the history of this storied rivalry. It's one of the best, if not the best, in all of college football. And for so long, it's been played in the Cotton Bowl down in Dallas.
Yeah, it's going to be very weird to see it.
Right now, though, it's in Arlington. The two often get mixed up. But could this be an audition, in a sense, to move that rivalry right here?
Ooh.
I don't know, but you've always heard the talk of, the Cotton Bowl is so gross. Sometimes the bathrooms don't work. It's so hot outside. Why do we have to get up so early and then sit in the sun? It's nice and cool in here.
It is nice and cool.
I'm nice and refreshed.
After Morgantown and
I'm
that
assuming
Kansas
the bathrooms
game,
work too.
There's a really big television screen too, if you haven't heard about it. So could this be the time, after so much talk has been made about potentially moving that game out of the Cotton Bowl, that the Big 12 and really all of college football takes this as an audition to move the Red River Showdown inside AT&T Stadium? I think it is. I really do think it is.
That scares me.
It is a little scary because obviously when people are sweating buckets and there's a line out the door for the bathroom that doesn't work.
Because the OU Texas game is just unlike anything other.
Yeah.
Because it's at the Cotton Bowl.
Because it's at the state
The 50-50. Yeah, it's like, are you going to move the fair here? Because I'll accept that a little bit if you're going to do the fair out here. Maybe then I'll accept it because it being at the fair is a really big part of it.
Yeah, I think the atmosphere that you get at the Cotton Bowl is something that really can't be matched.
Also, you can't really do a really good 50-50 in here.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be the same.
You don't have a nice split in the stands. It just doesn't.
It wouldn't be the same.
Logistically speaking, this doesn't work. But man, money talks, and we're going to find that.
More
We're going to
seats
find
in
that
here,
out.
it's nicer.
It would hold more. It would be cooler in here, and
amenities.
And I think the hints are already in the deck. I mean, look, they've already moved Big 12 Media Days from the Star over in Frisco to here.
Yeah.
They want everything here, and guess what? So does Jerry Jones. So
can't hide money.
This rivalry, it's a revenue builder.
Yeah, this stadium hosts a college game a lot. I mean, almost every week.
Almost every couple weeks. Yeah,
there's a game here. So I mean, they're down for it. As many games as they can get here.
Something to think about
for sure.
We'll see.
We'll see if they can make that move. Hopefully not. I want to stay.
Me too. I like turkey legs and fried cookie dough.
Yeah, it's not the same. If your seat isn't covered in bird poop and it's uncomfortable, it's just not the same.
If you don't lose 5 pounds of sweat during the game, what are you doing?
No corn dogs.
Yeah,
what a tragedy that would be.
Maybe they have corn dogs here.
I mean, they probably do.
We could bring some corn dogs.
$9 for a bottle of water instead of 5. Come on.
What are you going to do without raveling all your tickets up in the stands?
Exactly.
I don't know. That would just be weird.
So there's a ton of storylines you can go with it. Lincoln Riley, by the way, I forgot. He got asked about that this week, and he said it'd be really cool to have Texas, come to Norman, or OU goes to Austin. He's like
home and home.
But he was like, you can't take it out of the fair. You just can't. So it would be really cool. That'd be insane to go to Austin. I'd be down. So now getting off to what's actually going to happen on the field.
Yeah.
What are we thinking about this matchup? It's a rematch, obviously. We've talked about that at length here. First OU Texas rematch in a long time. We got to see it a little bit last year. OU TCU rematch. That was a little bit different scenario because OU beat TCU so bad the first time.
And then played them a week later and beat them badly.
Yeah, and then it was like really quick turnaround. This is obviously, it feels like OU's a completely different team than when they played Texas the last time.
And they are.
What are some things we're looking at here? Why is this game going to be different than the last one, basically?
I think this game is going to be different from the last one for a couple different reasons. First of all, you're going to see a lot more Kennedy Brooks. You didn't see a lot more. You didn't see much Kennedy Brooks in that game. You saw a lot more Trey Sermon. That's when he was the main back. Secondly, I think OU needs to dominate the line of scrimmage, and that's something that they did not do the first time OU played Texas. Texas kind of imposed itself. That was kind of the first time you saw Kyler Murray really flustered. He fumbled the ball, got sacked a couple times. And they need to be a little more consistent rushing the pass and rushing the passer. 5 sacks last week against West Virginia, but then 0 against Kansas a couple weeks ago. That's kind of been a trend all season long. They need to impose themselves and set the tone early.
I talked about this on Big Friday Sports, but when these two teams met the first time, they made Sam Ehlinger look really good. By they, I mean the OU defense, specifically the secondary. I mean, he had, I think, 314 yards through the air, 2 touchdowns. I mean,
3 on the ground.
3 on the ground. He looks really good. He looks like a borderline Heisman contender. And hey, to bring up somebody else, Lord Jordan Humphrey looked like a Bolitnikov contender. He averaged almost 15 yards per catch. That's a first down and a half. Our
Collin likes
whiz,
that one.
Joe isn't here, but I know Collin likes the first down.
Joe, love you, buddy.
15 yards per catch, excuse me. So I think those two specifically you'll have to shut down if you're the OU defense. But like you mentioned earlier, Sam, they've been chirping a lot on Twitter. I think Sam Ehlinger is really confident. He's like, hey, I already beat this team once. I looked really good in this game. They can't stop me. I think that's kind of his attitude going in. So they're going to have their work cut out for them.
Yeah, and I agree. And you mentioned little Jordan Humphrey. I want to piggyback off that a little bit more. Look, there have been changes made to this defense. And honestly, you can talk about the secondary all you want, but the whole defense made Sam Ehlinger look like a Heisman Trophy contender. And at the end of the day, what Ruffin McNeil has done is he's brought in some different players, some different schemes, and I think that Texas won't be necessarily prepared for that. And at the same time, this is an opportunity for OU's corners to redeem themselves. They were absolutely bullied last time around against Collin Johnson and Little Jordan Humphrey. They didn't have a chance. Trey Norwood just got lost like every single time there was a deep ball thrown. They have to be better. And if they're not, Texas could win this game. But at the end of it all, I think that Norwood's starting to come into his own a little bit more. I think they're starting to realize that Parnell Motley is playing a lot better right now. And of course, Trey Brown has been very consistent, and he was sort of finally starting to get that starting opportunity against Texas. And the final point would be for me for the secondary, Robert Barnes has molded into one of the better safeties I think that they have seen in a while. And I think he's really brought something different to the table. He's good in coverage, really good in run support. I like what overall he brings to the table, and he's a good leader, but he didn't play that much. And of course, Khalil Houghton will be out. Buki will be shuffling around. Buki has to step up, but the changes that have been made in the secondary are much different than the last time.
I want to touch on Buki in particular because, like you said, Trey Norwood has struggled, and Buki's original position is cornerback, and we talked about wanting him back there, but he's also 5'9". He's my height, and you saw that last week. 3 touchdowns that he allowed. He was in coverage. He got beat by Sills. He got beat by Jennings twice, and I don't know exactly where they're going to throw him. They can't throw him on the outside because you got Collin Johnson and Will Jordan Humphrey, 2 big wide receivers. And he's clearly struggled in the nickel position. I don't know what they're going to do with him, but they got to find out a way to maximize his talent because he has it.
Interesting stuff. And I also would say, too, I mean, I kind of want to see what they do with Caleb Kelly. He provided.
Yeah, he's provided us, but he didn't play a lot. He wasn't really even seeing the field.
No, there was still talk of him redshirting this time.
Yeah, clearly not now. He had a huge impact in West Virginia.
Yeah, but of course now he has the defensive touchdown. He was in coverage, but I just think they're using him wrong in certain situations. Obviously, he had that tremendous sack of Will Grier and then picks it up for the touchdown, but at the same time, he got absolutely burnt. Like barbecue chicken by Jennings down the field. And I don't think Kelly's a coverage guy. I think he provides something
He's a
different
rush the passer guy to me.
as a pass rusher. And so if you have him on the line of scrimmage, potentially at the jack, I think that's something that Texas will have to adjust to quickly because Caleb Kelly is so good.
What a weird arc for Caleb Kelly from, the prodigy linebacker.
He's got
great, and then he's not even starting when the season
On Monday,
starts.
he talked about it. He said, I've kind of had to adjust my game and adjust everything I've ever known. He said, I've never once in my entire life not been a starter.
Yeah.
And at the end of this season, he found himself not
didn't
the
start
starter.
most of this season.
And he said that was really hard for him to adjust to, but it seems like he's found a good rhythm now. He said he's kind of grown into what his really role is on this team.
We all thought, where does he stand on this team? Is he about to redshirt? Is he going to transfer? Now he's making a huge impact. He's right back to being almost what he was. I mean, he's still kind of a third linebacker role. He's still behind Bolton and Murray, but he's making an impact. He's playing.
And shout out to him because we were all 3 of us, you, me, and Josh were there. And he's very honest. He said, Curtis Bolton straight out beat me for the job. Yeah. And I got nothing but respect for him when I supported him, that it was just a hard adjustment. So it's nice to find his home. But at the same time, I feel like there's too many liabilities in coverage in that linebacker group. I don't think Curtis Bolton's a very good cover man as well. He's a lot more of a guy to rush the passer. Kenneth Murray's not bad. He's a guy who can spy the quarterback. But having those 2 and Buki that present potential mismatches is going to be something that Ruffin McNeil's going to have to work around come Saturday.
Something that really interests me, and Madeline, you touched on, is that Sam Ehlinger feels really confident. And I understand why Texas feels confident. They did win the game the first time, but they dominated 3/4 of that game, and OU evaporated that lead in just a blink. It was like, this is a
Well, that's not his confidence, though. That wasn't him out on the field.
And they got stopped a couple times, and Kyler Murray, they made up that ground very fast. That little 10-minute stretch shows you what Oklahoma could do to Texas if they're playing as good as they can. Is that you guys see it? You kind of feel like that fourth quarter was maybe an indication of what we might be seeing maybe the whole time this time around.
I think so, especially because
Oklahoma dominated that fourth quarter.
Especially in that fourth quarter, the offensive line clicked. And as I mentioned on earlier, I mean, the offensive line is now becoming one of the best in the country and potentially one of the best position groups in all of college football. I think they're the reason that could happen.
Dominating.
Yeah, they've got a chance to redeem themselves. They need to.
The biggest game that Lincoln Riley has coached for this team was probably, we all agree, Georgia last year. And I mean, that's a game when in the first half, OU looks like the much better team, but then they kind of struggled a lot as the game went into the second half. So since, that game has happened, this is the biggest one since then. So can, he kind of evaporate the whole big game Bob kind of stereotype that Sooner fans are used to from their head coach?
Yeah.
And can he say, okay, we made some big mistakes, we made some errors in that Georgia game that, cost a team that arguably wasn't as good as us to kind of come back and win that game. I mean, can we show out and like really dominate, like you said, Josh, and do what we know we can do, like they did in that fourth quarter? I mean, they're gonna have to come out and put their foot on the gas, and I think that's what they'll be looking to do.
Is anybody not expecting Kyler Murray to play way better this time around? Not that he played poor,
He's gonna have
but he had a couple turnovers.
You might see a little bit of energy out of him. You don't see him a lot. He's very composed after slides and after big plays. He's nice and calm. You might see him be fired up.
Him and Ellinger don't seem to really like each other that much.
Yeah, how much do we make of that whole situation? The whole Ellinger versus Murray.
It's awesome.
It's nice.
But
it's cool.
How much does it play out on the field?
Yeah, see, I feel like Kyler's the kind of guy to kind of brush it off.
He stays
but
pretty
I feel like
calm
in
out
this
there.
in this case, he really wants to come out and prove something.
Yeah.
I'm actually a little concerned because obviously we haven't even talked about the horns down thing yet.
That's what I was
Oh
gonna
my
say.
God.
Man,
What a week it's been.
This team's had a problem kind of all year. CeeDee Lamb and Texas Tech, Cody Ford every week almost. There seems to be times where they get personal fouls a lot. Well, this game is just on a silver platter to
Do
get
we
a lot of
see
personal
a
fouls.
Sooner player give a horns down?
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
I
Oh,
would
yeah.
say multiple.
I don't care. Give me 15 yards. Like, do we see that
probably.
happen?
I think that somebody will slip up.
so you want to lay out for our viewers what's going on here?
Should we
in
set
case
an
they're not
over-under?
familiar?
Yeah,
Should we
if
set
you're
an
not-
over-under for the amount of times we see a horns down?
I mean, 2.5. I mean, I imagine we'll probably get more than that. Even.
Over.
If you're not up to date, basically, Tom Herman back in the West Virginia game is kind of where it all started.
Yeah.
He said, hey, we're going to do the horns down. Why is it not a flag? It should be a flag, right? And it's been kind of going back and forth all week. Lincoln was concerned about it. He asked the Big 12 this week, hey, if we do horns down, what's going to happen? They said, it's up to the ref, but you very well might get flagged. And so Lincoln said, we're not going to do it. We're not going to risk it. So there's going to be no horns down. It's like the first OU Texas game in a billion years where the players aren't going to do the
Tom
horns
Herman
down.
grow up. Like,
It seems very
I think
silly.
we see some, and not a slip up. I think we get some, especially if they get a good lead. I think we see a few.
What about like the first touchdown of the game? Just like 7-0, just a million. Just
Sideways horns.
sideways horns.
Yes, where is that? ranked?
Slightly tilted.
Fist down with no horns.
What's interesting is that in Texas,
ways to get around
Texas
it.
fight
Horns
song,
down.
they say OU sucks in it. So is OU sucks, not that disrespectful, but going like this is?
It's not the
just kind of
players, I
interesting.
guess.
I
People are
guess.
so
Okay,
soft, man.
then
Come on.
So then let's look at Tom Herman and Sam Ellinger last year against Mizzou doing this, mocking Drew
Yes,
Lock.
that
mocking
video
Drew
was all
Lock.
over
That
social
video
media.
Yeah,
was
please. You
Yeah.
can't.
This
you can
week.
do that, but you can't do a horns down after a touchdown. Give me a break.
The main
man.
thing,
That's
this is
so
going to be a game.
ridiculous.
It's going to be very interesting to see the tempers flare and how. Because, I mean, Kyler's pretty good about it, but we've seen, like I said, CeeDee Lamb, Cody Ford's a guy who's kind of crazy out there, kind of scares me. There's a few guys in this team that are kind of hotheads. Like
These
Bolton,
teams
I
never
was
like
about
each
to say.
other, but now the specific players
Bolton's
are
a guy
beefing.
who,
Dream scenario.
he
in
had
my
a very
opinion.
interesting OU Texas game last time.
If you ask me who's the player that's going to throw the horns down, I'm going with Bolton finally.
if there's a strip sack for a touchdown, they will not care. They
No.
will do it. Yeah,
And I don't blame them either.
for sure.
Just go for it, man.
No, it's the energy. You gotta give your team some confidence. You can't be complacent. If you're gonna go for it, go all out. Really go for it. Have some fun.
Alrighty. Well, we're gonna take our last break now. We'll come back, call outs. We'll make our final picks and scores for this ball game, and we'll call it a season on GamedayU. Come on back here at AT&T Stadium. Back inside AT&T Stadium, Big 12 Championship game is just about to kick off for you. Got just a few minutes left here, guys. We'll do our favorite part: call out, scores, all that. Final word, Sam. Get it going, buddy.
My final word will get started: discipline. I think that's something that we didn't see from Oklahoma last time around, was disciplined football. A lot of penalties, a lot of costly mistakes that I think cost them the game. They're going to have to be more disciplined. At the offensive line, be smart. Please, God, don't get any unnecessary fouls. Throw the horns down if you can, every once in a
There's
while.
some shots, yeah.
Only once you know you've got this one in the bag, that's when you can start celebrating. Until then, take care of business.
My final word is irrevocable, which basically means cannot be changed or reversed. This game will define for the Sooners who they are, what kind of team they are. And after you win or lose, you can't go back on that. There's no redos. If you lose, you're not in the College Bowl playoff. So this can't be reversed, what happens in this game, so have a good game.
My final word is dream. And I got to tell you, this is the dream, ladies and
This is
gentlemen.
great. I can't wait for this game.
OU Texas round 2, it's finally arrived. And I gotta tell you, this is the dream scenario for everybody. It's the dream scenario for the Big 12. This is basically why they brought back the Big 12 title game. They wanted to see OU Texas round 2, make this conference relevant on the national perspective. Dream scenario for Texas. First time they could have a 10-win season since Mac Brown days back in 2009. Plus, they could win a Big 12 title, get back to that national relevancy, and beat their rival. And of course,
twice.
It's the dream scenario for Oklahoma. Avenge your loss, win a fourth consecutive Big 12 title, and potentially pad Kyler Murray's resume for the Heisman Trophy. What a dream scenario for everybody involved. And it's a dream for us, too. I mean, we're here.
Absolutely, yeah. Mine's are all on the same lines. Everything is my word. Because this game is it's literally just everything you could want it to be, and it means everything. It's Kyler's Heisman, the CFP, Big 12, OU Texas 2. Like, there's nothing not in this game. It is everything you could have wanted it to be for the Big 12 championship game, and we got it. So fun stuff there. All right, call-outs.
Call-outs. I'm calling out the big man himself, Lincoln Riley. This is something I've seen in the past, kind of a trend where Lincoln Riley has gone a little conservative with his play calling, especially when OU is up big. That cannot happen tomorrow. You put your foot on the gas and you do not let up. Put up as many points as you can. Keep Kyler Murray out there. Pad his stats. Who cares? Send him to New York. I'm cool with that. Nice trip to New York. Come on,
that Heisman.
Yeah. He's got to be up in the Heisman conversation. You've got to win big if you're Lincoln Riley.
My call is simply the defense. We all know the defense has been holding back this team all year. With even a mediocre defense, I think this team would be leaps and bounds better than it has been. It would be undefeated at this point. So the defense needs to really prove who they are and what they're made of.
My call out is something that I don't think we're talking nearly enough about, but it's so important. Calling out the seniors, ladies and gentlemen. Nobody since 1903 has had a second shot at Texas. Do not be the senior class that lost twice. Make sure you take this opportunity and do not let it slip out of your hands. Redeem yourself and make sure that when you exit the program, you're able to say that when I got that second chance, I capitalized on it. Beat Texas in round 2 and go down in the history books as the team that got to redeem themselves.
Also, a chance to win 4 straight Big 12s, which has never been done. They could win the Big 12.
Which is more than Texas has ever won in their history. 3 Big 12 titles for Texas.
That's a great stat. How do we get this late in the show without hearing that?
The seniors could have more Big 12 rings than Texas's entire football program.
I'll call out Kyler Murray real quick. Chance for the Heisman. He's not going to play football anymore after this game and whatever bowl they have. Your career's about to be over. You lost Texas the last time. You want to win this game. I know you do. You don't like Sam Ehlinger. You've made that clear. Kyler Murray, looking for him to have a humongous game today. So, real quick, scores, picks. Anybody going to take Texas?
No. No chance.
I'll do the same thing as the other 2 games.
No chance. I'm going 52-35 Oklahoma. I think this game will be close at the start. I think you're going to see a lot of interesting looks out of Texas, maybe catch Oklahoma's defense off guard. But I think this offense is just too much. We've seen it. Yeah. I believe in your theory now. Oklahoma can have as bad of a defense as they want, and it will not matter because that offense is one of the best in college football history. I say Oklahoma gets it done.
I'm going to say Oklahoma gets it done as well. 42-31. I think this is not quite as high scoring as we've seen from some Sooner games so far this season. I think both defenses will really look to step it up, but also both quarterbacks will look to step it up, specifically Kyler Murray. Like you said, Josh, OU 42-31.
51-38. I think Oklahoma has a great day offensively, and I do think the defense will have a chance with Sam Ehlinger being banged up in the shoulder to potentially capitalize on that. I'm going to go 51-38 Sooners, and they roll on to the college football playoff.
Yeah, 55-31 Oklahoma. I think Kyler Murray plays great. Defense plays a little better. And OU does get their way into the playoff once again. So that's it for us this season on GamedayU.
I'm sad.
Yeah, keep up with us. We might post some content for whatever bowl, but as far as full-blown show, this is probably it. Yeah. So it's been a great season. Thank you so much for watching. Any final thoughts?
This is my final thought.
Right there.
In honor of the Big 12 conference.
Throw me a flag.
Stop being so soft.
Throw me a flag. I don't care.
What a year. This has been a blast. Thank you all for watching. And, of course, enjoy some football today. My goodness, OU Texas round 2 is here.
Oh, gosh. First rematch since 1903. 115 years.
Let's go.
We're going to be here in this place, Cowboy Stadium. It's a dream scenario. So let's all throw them up. Have a great game.
Or down.